Welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We got 5 rounds in the books. We got two nail biters coming at you as we close in on our final 8 contestants as they are battling out for their share of $5,000. Ross has a metagame breakdown for us. Ross, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of what it looks like today in the field?
Yeah, so we have 17 players with a record of 3-1-1 or better entering this round. That's generally the line where you can make top 8. Sometimes 2 losses and you can still sneak in, but I'm looking at 3-1-1 or better here. 17 decks, very diverse at the top of our field. No surprise that Rakdos Evoke is the most played among them, but only at 3 copies
Yep.
out of the 17.
Seems like a pretty good spread, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, we've got 4 decks at 2 copies. Those are Yawgmoth, Hammer, 4-color Omnath, and Murktide. Though notably, one of the Murktide decks is a Grixis, not is it?
Ooh.
Splashing for Orcish Bowmasters.
Yeah, I've seen Orcish Bowmasters pop up in a variety of decks that maybe, don't usually play them. But it's because it only costs 1 black, and it's a very powerful card.
Yeah, so we'll see how that one goes. That's John Tagliarini. They're one of the 3-1-1s, so they're going to need to get 2 wins to get to our top 8. Then there's 6 decks that have 1 copy represented in this winners bracket, and that is going to be Team of Rhinos, Burn, Mono Green Tron, Hardened Scales, 5-color Creativity, and Amulet Titan. So really a very good mix and representative of the decks that are performing well in Modern right now. Unfortunately, no copies of Underworld Breach.
Well, it's because it's not good. Have you ever cast on World Breach? It's
Many
terrible.
times.
Doesn't do anything. I'm
Uh,
just kidding.
And well, I can tell you that Don Delosier and TJ Radizak are 2 players pacing the field at 5-0, so they are likely locked with an intentional draw here at 5-0-1. Dawn, of course, playing Rakdos Evoke. We saw her last round, and we see TJ a couple times today playing Yawgmoth. So I'm pretty comfortable locking them for a spot in the top 8, but that leaves 15 other people in this winners bracket battling out for the last 6 spots.
Alrighty. Well, we do have a nice little feature match to bring in. Ross, who are we going to be watching in round number 6?
So we're going to continue watching Patrick Legg. I like this Hardened Scales deck, but this round we're watching mainly to feature a player we haven't seen a lot of today, but we've seen a lot of him recently across many tournaments. That is Amin Abadi. Coming off a win last week at SCG Columbus. He also won the 5K here at Apex last month. So on a very, very strong stretch of play with Azorius Hammer, and that's what he is playing today. He's at 4-1, trying to get one more win and hopefully draw the last round into our top 8.
Might be difficult against a big old walking ballista. Let's go ahead and head down to the feature match area and watch this match as these players are vying for those coveted top 8 slots. Mina Body lost early in the day. We haven't seen him on feature match area because he just had a loss. So
Yeah.
he was behind on standings.
I believe he lost round 1, so he's going for the full rally here. And this is ostensibly a very similar, 2 similar decks. Both artifact heavy, both very aggressive, both have very powerful synergies that can lead to quick kills. But the card that you mentioned just a minute ago, Walking Ballista, I think kind of a mirror breaker in this instance. Just very, very good at keeping the Hammer player's battlefield clear. So we'll see if Leg can deploy an early Walking Ballista and use it to good effect.
All right, Esper Sentinel for a body is the start. Patrick Legg matches with Hardened Scales, but that does trigger Esper Sentinel and give Amina Body a free card to draw. We got Urza Saga into Springleaf Drum. We're going to use that along with our planes and the Esper Sentinel to play Pure Steel Paladin. This could get out of control quickly. Patrick Legg needs to play a Walking Ballista or some piece of interaction real soon. Urza Saga is the play for Patrick Legg. Both players with Saga active.
Ooh.
Here it is. Walking Ballista, that's X equals 1, but the Hardened Scales makes it 2. Do you want to go ahead and shoot down Pure Steel Paladin? I think you do. There it is.
Hey, he does just trade in the Walking Ballista, and if you're Amina Body, getting a 1-for-1 trade for an opposing Walking Ballista is still pretty good.
Agreed.
You've got the Urza Saga, you've got more gas, plenty of cards in hand, so certainly not the end of the world, and you'll definitely take that trade. A second Ballista, though, could spell trouble.
All right, a body, though, untapping with a clear opponent's board and a bunch of mana sometimes means that you win the game. So let's see if we have, ye old Sigarda's Aid into a couple hammers.
What do you got? I mean, normally a pretty fast player, but seems to be slowing down a little bit, being a little bit more deliberate. Maybe that has something to do with his recent string of success.
Yeah, one of the first times I ever watched Amina Body play, he was playing this mono red Asmo deck, right? And he was just flying through his turns, just making little mistakes here and there. But, when you give him a real deck and tell him to slow down a little bit, you see what happens. Man wins some tournaments.
Ah, he's got some chops.
Looks like he's talking into his earpiece to see what the right play is.
Hey, Gabe. Gabe, what do I do?
Yeah. They're always playing two-headed giant. Here's another Esper Sentinel. We're going to attack for 1, and now with Springleaf Drum, we can still make a construct token. Looks like that's going to be a Body's game plan right now.
And it's a solid game plan. He's sort of ahead on the Urza Saga race. He's got more artifacts on the battlefield, so his constructs are going to be bigger. They're going to come down sooner, and you're not too worried about anything horrible happening on this turn from Patrick Legg.
Yeah, unless it's another Walking Ballista plus some other stuff. But here's a Patchwork Automaton. We do have a Welding Jar, which can put 2 counters on it. And it looks like we also have a Hangerback Walker for 0, and this is going to put 2 counters on it as well. Give us a little bit of defense. He has a Welding Jar. I would love to see him cast the Welding Jar as well, but chooses not to.
Oh, weird. I wonder why he's holding back on the jar. I mean, you're not really concerned about removal from the hammer deck, so I don't think the jar is going to be used to regenerate anything anytime soon, but just getting a 5/5 patchwork automaton could be quite nice.
All right, going to go back in Body's Way. Makes a construct, end of turn. Now back to his main phase, Chapter 3 of Urza Saga going on the stack. We'll see if he wants to float a mana or make a construct. He's going to go make a construct. So we're playing for a little bit of a grindier game, but these constructs are enormous.
Currently 5/5s, and the Urza Saga is going to find another artifact here, so that'll get him up to 6/6s.
Yeah. Now, one of them's a hammer, so that means he probably has some way in hand to equip it. We'll see if he wants to do that this turn or maybe wait for a big flurry next turn. Has a land in hand as well. Going to go ahead and play Hallowed Fountain untapped, going down to 15.
I think I see a Pure Steel Paladin.
I thought I saw a Pure Steel Paladin too. Let's see if he wants to go ahead and deploy it.
You could use one of the Esper Sentinels, and you could equip the other Esper Sentinel and have 3 really big attackers.
So one of these sagas is also, just has summoning sickness. So I might have wanted to do that instead. But we're going to play another Springleaf Drum. Then we're going to play the Pure Steel Paladin. Okay.
Interesting. This forces you to put the hammer on a construct, and it doesn't spread out your damage as much. You do get a Springleaf Drum down.
Yeah, it's not quite forcing lethal, but Patrick Legg says that's a ton. I'm going to chump block.
Yeah, and getting punished for not getting the Welding Jar down. Could have blocked and thrown away the Welding Jar, kept a Patchwork Automaton, maybe grown it some more on this turn.
Right. All right. Well, Patrick doesn't have a way to come back from that. An explosive start from Amina Body featuring that Urza Saga, a couple Springleaf Drums, and some Pure Steel Paladins. And we're off to game number 2. As these players are shuffling up for the second game, they're going to be looking at their 15-card sideboards. Ross is going to do the same and give us his expert analysis. Ross, what you got for me?
Okay, starting with Patrick Legg, we have 2 Dismember, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Orvar the Allform, 2 Soulless Jailer, 2 Tamiyo's Safekeeping, 1 Chalice of the Void, 1 Gemstone Caverns, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Haywire Might, and 1 Pithing Needle. I love the Dismembers, love the Force of Vigors, love the Haywire Might, and I like Pithing Needle in this matchup as well. There's a lot of things you can name. You can sometimes just name Colossus Hammer and force them to find, one of the enchantments that to equip it. You can, you can name Inkmoth Nexus. You can sometimes just name Urza Saga. If you're tutoring for it off of your saga, you've already gotten your constructs. You can stop your opponents. So a lot of options on the needle, and then all the removal I definitely want in this matchup.
Sure. All right. Well, on the other side of things is some pretty cool stuff too. I bet. What you got?
Yeah. Let me get Amina Body's deck pulled up, and we have 3 March of Otherworldly Light, 3 Sanctifier Invec, 2 Lavinia Azorius Renegade, 2 Surge of Salvation, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Path to Exile, and 1 Drannith Magistrate. Once again, I like the removal, the marches, the path, and I also like the Pithing Needle. Stopping Arcbound Ravager and Walking Ballista, really, really important.
No, I agree. Walking Ballista, I think, is the best card against you because your deck is just so full of these cheap 1/1s and 1/2s and such. And with Hardened Scales, Walking Ballista can get really big really fast.
Yeah. So we saw game 1, and very quickly, Amin just had the better start, overwhelmed Patrick Legg there. Even though Legg had a very solid opening 2 turns with Hardened Scales into Walking Ballista, certainly his 2 best cards in the matchup. On the play, it means draw just too explosive. Post board, I think things are going to slow down a lot. Both players are bringing in 4 or 5 removal spells, a lot more interaction, and even if they don't have a ton of interaction early, the opponent is going to have to be wary of it and say, no, maybe I don't want to go all in here. Maybe I don't want to go for my hammer. Maybe I don't want to sacrifice my Arcbound Ravager this early and go in on my Walking Ballista, and that'll just naturally slow the pace of the game.
Yeah, I mean, as you noted earlier in the match, these two decks are very similar, both featuring 4 copies of Urza Saga, a ton of artifacts, and their sideboard cards are very similar as well. A couple pieces of removal, a couple of disenchants here and there, a couple anti, cascade cards with things like Chalice to the Void. But it seems as if a body, his whole deck is just functioning on all cylinders, going for those big hammer kills really quickly. And the only way that the Hardened Scales deck can really stop it is with Walking Ballista. So Pith and Needle from either side could be detrimental, but I think that on a body side, it's going to be a bit more useful.
Yeah, I do think if both players get to do their thing, the power of Walking Ballista will give Legg a leg up.
I
But
stole my joke. It's fine.
but the hammer deck is certainly much leaner. One of the issues that the Scales deck does have, a lot of 2-mana threats.
Yes.
A bit of a clunky curve for a deck that plays a lot of fast artifacts. The curve is so too heavy they don't even play Mox Opal.
And, first of all, Mox Opal is not legal.
Oh yeah, they banned Mox Opal.
Yeah, like a long time ago.
Dude, it's been a long day.
Yeah, I mean, even when Mox Opal was legal, it was like maybe the worst Mox Opal deck because normally
It wasn't good.
Normally you want Mox Opal in a deck that's like a bunch of 1s and 0s, so that you just like spew your whole hand. But in the Hardened Scales deck, it was always just like playing a 2 and having a leftover mana on turn 2.
Yeah, that is generally what it did, and not really much change to the curve. If anything, it's more glutted at 2 now because of Patchwork Automaton. You still have your Hangerback Walkers, your Walking Ballistas, your Ravagers, and they added Automaton, which is very good, but it's going to need a little bit more time to get off the ground. So being on the play should help here. Might be a struggle for Legg to, come back in game 3 while on the draw, but the additional removal from the sideboard should definitely help draw out the game and give him more time to deploy his powerful threats.
All right, these players are shuffling up here for game number 2. A body on your right with the hammer deck did take game number 1. Patrick Legg with Hardened Scales on your left. We'll see if these players are going to keep their hand or toss them back for a fresh 6. Patrick taking a peek. I see Welding Jar. I see an Urza Saga. Of a Seiju. All right, and it looks like Patrick's going to keep, and a body is going to take a mold to 6.
Okay, good news for Patrick here, trying to get the all-important 5th win to be in striking distance of the top 8. And you got to figure, Amin having lost round 1, he might have to play next round too.
Yeah, his tiebreakers are going to be poopy.
He might need the 2-0.
All right, draws a 6. See if he likes what he has. Has to put 1 back at the moment. All right, going to go to 5. So tough mulligans for body, but likely aggressively mulliganing to try to find those quick kills. Games can get really out of control with Hardened Scales. They also have quite a few flying blockers, so you can't always be reliant on Ornithopter or Inkmoth Nexus getting the job done.
Yeah, definitely not. So, looking for, I think on 5, probably handle like 1 piece of interaction, maybe an Urza Saga. It's going to be hard to have all the pieces for a quick kill, so I'd be looking to be a little bit interactive and then turn the corner quickly.
All right, turn 1 Hardened Scales from Patrick Legg. That's exactly what his deck wants to do. A body's way, going to draw.
What he doesn't want to do is play Boseiju as a land. That is indicative of a land-like hand.
Or just needing the green mana if he has Urza Saga and Inkmoth Nexus. Here's a Ornithopter and no 1-drop from a body. I thought I saw a hammer lying around over there, so maybe...
Ooh, March of Otherworldly Light in response to the Saga trigger.
All right, so here's a cool little trick. So Saga Chapter 1, it doesn't start adding mana until Chapter 1 has resolved. If a Mina body with the trigger on the stack plays March of Otherworldly Light to exile it, and that means that no 2-drop from Patrick Legg and essentially a time walk for a body.
A body looked to move quickly, attacking with the Ornithopter. I wonder if he has... Okay, he does not have the God, what is that enchantment's name?
Cigar is 8.
There we go.
Yeah.
Scarred is 8 plus hammer. Does have the hammer.
Yeah, I know he has the Pure Steel Paladin in hand, but perhaps not a second white.
Yeah, is also going to need a third artifact to get to Metalcraft, but Amin is close to being all sewed up with, his deck doing its thing.
All right, well, here we go. Land for turn, Saga Chapter 2. The body doesn't find it.
So he's guaranteed to have it next turn because the Saga can find a drum.
Yes.
But then you kind of need another creature. And no play for him this turn. Oof.
Yeah, this is slowly falling away for Patrick. The Saga should be ticked up to Chapter 2 once these players figure it out. No harm, no foul.
Amin points it out. That is a turn-based action, not a moving it up. You can miss the trigger from adding a chapter counter. You cannot miss adding the chapter counter.
All right, top 5. Gonna look through and find a colorless card. Can be a land, can be an artifact creature that's colorless. Here's a Shadow Spear as the find, so we're gonna maybe use that to gain some life.
Not a great find, but any cheap artifact is solid.
Yeah, maybe just has a pair of 1-cost things wants to deploy. Here is a 1/1 Hangerback Walker, but that's going to be a 2/2 from the Hardened Scales, and that's also going to buff up this Patchwork Automaton. We're going to swing in for 5, a body.
And there's an Arcbound Ravager in Patrick Legg's hand, so if we can get... So we can float him in with Saga next turn, get Drum, play... Oh, we're still 1 short. We need a land to play Shadow Spear, equip, and play the Ravager.
Well, you might be able to just throw a bunch of counters on an unblocked thing. Or force this Pure Steel Paladin to block. I think with Hangback Walker getting a bunch of counters and then being sacrificed, it's going to be pretty solid.
Amin first goes to move the hammer to the Ornithopter, then thinks better of it. Says, you know what? I'd rather have a 12/12 on defense right now.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 3 of the Saga. We'll see what Patrick Legg wants to do. We're going to float a mana. That's indicative of a powerful turn incoming when you have access to this much mana and you don't use a construct.
What will we find? Oh, we could find it.
Zabaz does double duty on the modulars.
There's a lot of options here. I think it's going to be hard to generate 2 lethal attackers because you're going to need the power of the synergy between Hangerback Walker and Arcbound Ravager to get build up a bunch of counters.
All right, so 1 mana floating still. Zabaz comes in for free off the Saga. Zabaz is such a powerful upgrade for the Hardened Scales deck. It is easily the best 1-drop in the deck outside of the Hardened Scales itself.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of Arcbound workers these days.
Oh, yeah. See, they gave him 18 more abilities.
Yeah.
Just made them legendary.
We put another 100 words on this card.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. All right. Pass it over. We have Zabaz coming in with 2 counters, 1 mana floating. Using the mana floating, we're going to play an Arcbound Ravager. We have Shadow Sphere, but we can't play an equip. I'm going to put 2 counters here on the Patchwork.
Okay. Oh,
Shadow
looks like we
Spear.
drew another Arcbound Ravager.
Okay, well, I guess we could just block. Blocking seems okay.
Yeah, 12/12 is... Well, so you have to block the Automaton, right? Can we generate 2 lethal attackers now?
All right, so we're sacking Zabaz. We're actually just going to force a chump block with the Pure Steel Paladin, I believe. So Zabaz is going to go away. This makes the Patchwork Automaton into a 12/12, so we can trade with Pure Steel. But once the block happens, Patrick likely going to put more counters on it in one way or another. Now the question is, do you just shove all in on it? And I think you do. You sack this, you get 2 counters on the Ravager, you get 2 Thopter tokens, and then I guess you can just sack Ravager and put 7 more counters on it. I don't think it needs to be bigger, and it leaves you 2 Thopters back to chump block in case Amenabody does find a potential lethal line.
I think Patrick was a little bit quick to use the Zabaz to modular over to the Patchwork Automaton.
Agree.
If he had just left his artifacts in play and attacked with Hangerback Walker and Automaton, he would have had 2 lethal attackers. Because you have a 2/2 Arcbound Ravager. You can sack the Automaton itself once that has to get blocked. You can sack the Zabaz. You can sack the Shadow Spear. You can sack the Welding Jar. That gets it to a 10/10 and 3 more counters from the Zabaz. That's 13. You had a 2/2 Hangerback. 2 plus 13 is 15.
Yeah, and a body too far behind on board, can't find lethal line, so packs it in, and Patrick Legg takes game number 2. These players are going to be shuffling up here and getting ready for game number 3 in just a moment. And while they're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and shout out our sponsors for today's event. Thanks to Ultimate Guard for providing a swag pack for every one of our Apex Invitational qualifiers. They have all sorts of awesome sleeves, like katana sleeves, deck boxes like the Boulder deck box, as well as the Archive big deck box that can hold your cube, can hold all your commander decks. Thanks to Wings, etc. Grill and Pub for keeping us fed and happy. Once the day is done, we'll be heading up there in just a few hours, and we're also going to be eating his fill of the jerk tater tots and the cauliflower wings, if I had to guess, if I'm a betting man.
You would be guessing correctly.
Oh,
You're not
yeah.
getting great odds.
That's fine. I would bet the
Yeah.
house every time.
It's like plus 2,000.
Yeah. All right, and once again, thanks to G Fuel Energy
Minus
Formula.
2,000. I never remember how it works.
You know, doesn't matter. Thanks to G Fuel Energy Formula for keeping us nice and energized throughout these long days of Magic coverage. We appreciate all of our sponsors here on the Apex series. If you want to come down and play on the Apex series, we do have an event coming up next month. If you missed this weekend's event on October, I want to say October 14th. Is that right, Taryn? Can I get confirmation on that? 28th. Sorry, October 28th. We'll be having another Apex Magic weekend where, me and Ross will be bringing you all the Magic coverage where we'll be doing this whole thing again. We've been having the Apex Magic weekends roughly once every 60 to 90 days, every month and a half or so, 2 months. It's been a lot of fun putting on coverage for you folks. I hope you at home are enjoying it. Give me something, Ross.
Big game here. Winner will look to draw in the last round. Loser likely out, but you never know. Sometimes the next two sneaks in. So important here for Amin to be on the play. But as I noted, the extra removal that both players are bringing in should slow the games down, and that will blunt the advantage of going first.
All right, so Body going to be on the play with that hammer deck. We saw him in game 1 just dismantle his Hardened Scales opponent. Leg just taking it back for game number 2 and making a giant automaton and smacking Amina Body down. Now we're going to see if this hammer deck can keep 7 and go hard here in the paint. We are both keeping 7, but Patrick Legg starts with a Lucky Gemstone Caverns.
I'd like to go first.
Yes, yes. A Body going to go fetching. Finds planes.
Yeah, I love the Gemstone Caverns in this Scales deck. It sort of solves the issue of being so too heavy by letting you play a 2-drop on turn 1.
It also solves the issue of you being on the draw.
Now, here's the Sigarda's Age. We have the Ornithopter to be super threatening from a Body. That could give Legg, a lot of pause about tapping out for a threat.
Doesn't look like it. So, Patrick Legg's way. We are going to have the turn number 1 with a second mana source thanks to the luck counter on the Gemstone Caverns. We're going to play Saga as our first lands.
Gets the Saga down when there's no mana up for a potential March of Otherworldly Light.
Love it.
I think I see a Hardened Scales and a Beseiju.
Okay, there's Hardened Scales. And passing the turn, a Body's way. Let's see if he can do some dirty. Held Fountain untapped. 2 mana. That's a Stoneforged Mystic. Gonna go hunting. Probably gonna go get a hammer. We'll see what he wants to get.
I saw a hammer already in hand. Might go get the Shadow Spear.
Might go get a Cauldron Complete. Especially if Patrick Legg is able to blow up the Sigarda's Aid. It'll be nice to have a little backup plan. We'll see. Goes and gets Shadow Spear. Ross on the money.
I am so smart. SMRT.
Tank. Change places.
Why you gotta do me like that,
Well, it's honestly infuriating to say that Ross is right. I don't know why. It's just a law of the universe. It's like gravity.
I think it's pretty nice, to be honest. So I'd have to disagree.
Maybe you're just right so much that you're
Got it again.
Yeah. Look, it's hard to be right twice in one turn, and Ross found a way.
I'm so right.
All right, Body gonna go get that Shadow Spear. So his hand has Shadow Spear. He's got Sigarda's Aid in play, so threatening some serious damage next turn. Patrick Legg, Chapter 2 on the Urza Saga, goes back to his turn number 2. Has an extra land in play from the Gemstone Caverns. We'll see what he can do with 3 mana.
Looks like he's got a couple Walking Ballistas, which is probably the reason he made the mana inefficient play of playing the Hardened Scales on turn 2 instead of a 2-drop. But it does make this a lot of turns just awkward. He's not able to utilize his mana that well. We have a Dismember as the other card.
Interesting. Okay, so Boseiju knocks off the Sigarda's Aid at main phase, and then Dismember is going to go ahead and take care of Stoneforge Mystic and Amina Body. Going to be completely disrupted here in terms of, keeping things on the battlefield that matter, but going to go up to 3 mana. Maybe has a good hand. If he has Pure Steel Paladin, can very easily rebuild. And perhaps a missed sequence from Patrick Legg. So Boseiju is going to resolve first. He's going to go get an untapped Howled Fountain. If he has a 1-mana piece of protection like Surge of Salvation, he can keep his creature alive. It's a Spell Pierce. Patrick Legg decimated. Does a body have the Cauldron complete? Saga comes down. He's moving fast. Does he have the kill? 2 mana. Activate. Cauldron complete. The 5/5 indestructible coming down.
This is a disaster for Patrick Legg. Just didn't really think about how to sequence those removal spells. Didn't think it would be relevant. Turns out it was.
A bunch of artifacts being deployed for a body, and we are going to start making a large construct, and then if we're ever able to draw the Pure Steel Paladin, the game ends on the spot. Patrick Legg gonna pack it in. He sees the writing on the wall, can't beat it.
Amina Body close to the full comeback. Lost round 1, has now won 5 matches in a row. May be able to draw in. We'll have to check the standings to see about that, but at the very least has a win in to make another top 8 here on the Apex series.
Yeah, the Abadi Bros dominating here at Apex, the home store, as well as in the greater area at multiple other tournament series. I know Amin won last week's SCG in Columbus, and him and his brother have both won the last 2 events that we held here at Apex Gaming both Saturday events.
Yes.
Because Mason Clark won one of the Sunday events in Pioneer. But
modern events. So
the modern events, the Abadi Bros are crushing.